Today we're going over every Dead by Daylight killer to determine which ones I personally find the scariest to play against. Considering I'm still pretty new to the game, I'm still very susceptible to being scared, and I'll be judging each killer based purely on how they made me feel during the matches, their designs, their chase themes, and any other little details that stood out. I'll be covering them in random order to keep things fresh, and remember, this is simply my personal opinion. Do not take anything to heart, the whole point for this video is to be super fun and lighthearted. Quick note before we begin, I'm fully aware that survivor gameplay is usually more fun to watch for this type of video, but finding some of these killers is like finding Bigfoot. And since I'm terrible at survivors, whenever I do stumble across a rare killer, I might literally just go down within the first 10 seconds. So you'll mostly be seeing killer gameplay here. It's a little less embarrassing for me because I'm also horrible at killer, and less painful for you to watch. With all that said, thank you so much for being here, it genuinely means the world to me. Let's dive into the list! First up is a killer I honestly struggled to place at first, but now I think has a perfect spot on my personal scale. Ghostface. Stealth killers are my absolute worst nightmare in DBD. The match begins, nothing seems to happen, everything feels a little too quiet, and then suddenly I'm exposed and I have no idea where, how, or why. It still gets me every time to this day. But that's exactly why I love horror. The amount of paranoia you feel throughout the match, always looking around, cautious of your surroundings. I mean, there are so many videos purely dedicated to people getting jump scared by Ghostface. I genuinely despise stealth killers because they are so scary and always give me a good scare. But once the chase starts, his threat level drops completely for me. His chase music, while absolutely awesome, doesn't infuse any panic within me, if that makes sense. So while all the jump scares might be the most evil thing on the planet, everything else just doesn't hit the same. Also, despite him hovering behind trees, for example, is supposed to be, you know, creepy, I honestly find it kind of adorable. He's just a shy little guy. But that's why, for me, he feels so tricky to place, because his jump scares are like A to S tier for me. His chases don't scare me in any way. He's very fun to play against though. He's an absolute classic as well, so for me, Ghostface lands solidly in the middle. A B tier on the spookiness scale. Next on our list is Big Boy Nemesis. Now, despite his rather grueling appearance, the first word that comes to mind when seeing this killer is silly. The way he runs, his M1 animation, especially when lunging, the sound when he hits something, I can never take this guy seriously. But that's what makes him so beautiful. His zombies can bring out a good jump scare or two, but they're mostly either just there or are simply frustrating to deal with. That aside though, his chase music is amazing. It really gets me on my toes, especially during longer chases, and it makes the whole experience really intense, like you're actually fighting to survive. So in that sense, it does feel a little bit scary. I am so sorry, Nemi, but if this tier list were based on silliness, you'd be S tier for sure. But on the spooky list, you're a D tier, though your music does make up for quite a bit. Now, if this tier list were based on lore, this next killer would place quite highly on my list personally, and that is the Houndmaster. Sadly though, she herself nor the dog frighten me in any way in game. Truthfully, there isn't very much I can say regarding the Houndmaster. I don't feel any surge of panic or fear when seeing her or hearing the terror radius, and her appearance doesn't have anything that outright stands out to me in terms of fear. But I think she is incredibly cool in concept, and her chase music is another one of my personal favorites. And honestly, sometimes I simply buy killers or love killers purely for their chase music. I'm sorry, Houndmaster, but you'll also be placed on the D tier in my list. I will not be beating around the bush here. I believe this killer is fairly beloved across both killer and survivor players, but from a survivor's perspective, I absolutely despise him. I'm talking about the Oni. And the reason I dislike him is because, in my opinion, he is one of the scariest killers in the entire game. I got you there, didn't I? I bet some of you were prepared to crucify me in the comments. The terror radius, the chase music, the sprinting, the yells, the grunts, even his weapons, everything about this killer terrifies me to the point where sometimes I literally flinch during chases. I completely lose all sense of how to actually play the game sometimes. He is genuinely terrifying, but wow, is his appearance so badass. Each time I hear him yelling from a distance though, I just pray he doesn't find me, and when he does, as I said, I completely lose control. If I ever need to psych myself out for whatever reason, all I need to do is encounter an Oni match. There is no way this killer doesn't belong anywhere else but the S tier for me personally. One of the most panic-inducing killers in the entire game for me. The next killer has quite a few similarities compared to another killer we already mentioned on the list. They're both nothing but silly and come from the same franchise. That's right, I'm talking about the Mastermind, also known as Albert Wesker. First of all, he's really got that oomph in his run. He just puts his entire body into it. And you know what? I wholeheartedly respect the hustle. That said, while his terror radius is honestly quite scary and eerie, his chase music unfortunately doesn't do anything for me either in terms of fear. But I mean, come on, that chase music is so dope. This man has a whole orchestra backing his chases. So, despite the fear factor lacking, his chase music really does amp up the intensity. His ability is genuinely cool too. The possibilities and skill expression are fantastic, and it's kind of hilarious watching Whiskers fly through windows. Wesker, my dearly beloved, while you are badass without a single doubt, you don't scare me. In-game at least. D tier. I don't think I've ever encountered a match against this killer where they don't jump scare me at least once. Every single game, I'm paranoid, constantly looking everywhere, second guessing whether it's even safe to touch a generator. That's right, I'm talking about Miss Piggy herself. Now, her scariness really depends on the distance for me. If she's far away and crouching, she's honestly kinda just silly waddling towards you. But when she's close, prepare yourself. The whole pig head on a human body thing really creeps me out in a way I can't explain as well. It just feels wrong. And don't even get me started on the silent piggies who don't growl when attacking, you evil people. That said, I wish she maybe had her own chase theme because it would make the aftermath of the jump scares even more intense. But between the paranoia, the jump scares, and the creepy design, she keeps me on edge every time I encounter her. For me, she's a high B tier on the spookiness scale. Next up, we've got the Executioner, better known as Pyramid Head. Now, his appearance to me isn't outright terrifying with him rocking that comically oversized knife, but he undoubtedly feels wrong and disturbing to look at. His whole presence makes me somewhat uneasy and nervous. I can't explain it either, it's just a feeling that I get, but I feel that's another one of the beautiful things within the horror genre, the unexplainable things. I'm unsure what the general consensus is regarding his terror radius and more specifically his chase music, but both are genuinely unsettling to me. No matter what map I'm on, it feels like the whole match takes on this heavier, darker tone and atmosphere when facing Pyramid Head. This killer just feels disturbing in so many ways, and I dread facing him. If I even hear the faintest bit of that terror radius, I'm gone. Because there is no way in hell I'm letting that guy catch up to me. He easily earns a spot in the A tier on my spookiness scale. The scariest thing about this next killer is the state they found themselves in over time. They went from scarily good to scarily bad. From holding the greatest survivors hostage in a reign of terror to being almost completely irrelevant. I honestly wasn't around to experience those former dark days myself, but I should probably consider myself lucky. That's right, I'm talking about the Skull Merchant. Here's the thing, nothing about the Skull Merchant herself really scares me. Her drones are simply drones or more of a nuisance, her chase doesn't get my heart racing, at best things get slightly intense but that's about it. She doesn't bring the horror for me personally, so while her reputation used to be terrifying, her in-game fear factor is basically non-existent. I don't feel scared. Sadly, she's another D tier on the list, though let's give credit where credit is due. Those hips don't lie. Listen, if you ever decide to bring this next killer near me, your days are numbered. I am not even kidding. This thing crawled straight out of one of the most iconic horror franchises. I am talking about the Xenomorph. This thing is terrifying. The way it scuttles and crawls on all fours feels disgusting. And then when it stands up and is running at you, oh, imagine me having to deal with the Queen Xenomorph skin. I can barely handle the regular version to begin with. I cannot deal with this killer. That terror radius too. Especially the 8 meters version is genuinely so eerie. The only thing I start thinking of is it being right behind me and I hear its growling so close to my ears. And then that chase music hits and everything escalates, and like Nemesis, I feel like I'm actually fighting or running for my life. It's intense, it's creepy, it's badass. Definitely a solid A tier on this list. Next up, we've got the Plague, and honestly, the only word that comes to mind is disgusting. The chains, her sickly skin, and of course the vomit, just pure nasty. Don't get me wrong, she does look disturbing, but for me, she's not actually scary. Facing her in-game, I never really feel panic or my heart racing. That said though, her lore is another story entirely. It's heartbreaking, it's horrifying, and every time I think about it, I just feel so awful. In terms of pure story, she's one of the most tragic killers for me. But since this list is all about the spookiness and not lore, Plague, I love you dearly, but you're sitting in D tier for me. The next killer on our list is the Trapper. Ugh, Evan, another killer with a backstory that just tears me to pieces. You can't keep doing this to me! Trapper is another killer where whenever I see him, I can't help but feel horrible knowing his lore. All the spikes on him, his skin, and everything, it breaks my heart. Trapper inherently isn't very scary though, but I do admit that his traps have given me a good jump scare or two here and there. I get easily scared, okay? Leave me alone. He doesn't make the atmosphere scarier for me though, nor do I feel that panic that I'm searching for. I've been the victim of a few basement trappers though, and those are terrifying. Even if he doesn't horrify me the way some killers do, he's the original DBD killer, and for that alone, he'll always have a special spot for me. Regardless of that though, Trapper will be landing in my D tier as well. Following the Trapper, we'll be talking about the Spirit. Personally, I find her genuinely disturbing and horrifying. The cuts on her body, the bandages, the shards of glass, the deep cuts, her facial expressions, she exudes that horror and uneasiness that I feel when playing horror games. Then you add the sound she makes and her chase music, and it's another one of those killers that just packs such a huge punch for me. Her phasing ability is another kicker. I've been jump scared by her countless times, and even just hearing her start to phase fills me with so much paranoia. That uncertainty of whether she knows where you are or not is terrifying. Honestly, Spirit fills me with nothing but dread and anxiety, but words can't truly express how much she impacts me in game. For me, Spirit absolutely deserves the S tier on my personal list. The next killer is the Singularity. Personally, I find him very creepy. Everything about his design feels off-putting. The wiring into his mouth, the mechanical deformities, the way he limps when he walks, it's just gross to look at. But is he scary in the sense that I feel adrenaline, panic, or fear rushing through me? Not entirely. The only moment that does get me on edge is watching that freaky limp while running from him. His chase music is awesome, but it doesn't make me feel truly afraid either. And I think that differentiation between disgust and actually being scared has to be made. So while Larry is definitely disturbing, he doesn't hit the scary factor for me, which lands him in C tier. Because compared to all the other killers in the D tier, the Singularity just stands out a little bit more for me. Yeehaw, my friends, it's time to talk about the Deathslinger. Anyway, first of all, holy hell, this guy's music is out of this world. Both the Terror Radius and Chase theme, now that is music that fills me with panic and adrenaline from beginning to end. Another thing that honestly makes him incredibly eerie and adds mystery to him is how calm and cold he seems throughout everything he does, as if he's just completely toying with the survivors. It gives a false sense of security where as you think more about it, you realize how creepy it actually is. There's so many killers out there who are so hasty, ready to get their hands on the survivors whenever possible, but this guy is so meticulous, and honestly his appearance just freaks me out too. He has nothing special going on that makes him horrific, but he's just this dark and cold enigma. The fact that his shots can also be heard all over the map too. It's obviously normal that a gun like his is loud, but it kinda adds some paranoia as well. You don't know whether the next shot is going to be closer or further. I always feel so uneasy throughout every match when facing the Deathslinger, and as mentioned before, I'm filled with nothing but dread and panic. I think he has very much earned his rightful spot in the A tier. The Artist is the next killer on our list, and she, similarly to the Deathslinger, has a terror radius and chase theme that fill me with so much adrenaline and panic. Her music might be one of the most terrifying tracks for me personally. Another thing is that she to me feels highly uncomfortable to look at. Her elongated limbs, her weird movements, her sounds, her screams, that combined with the music makes her nightmarish. It's the reason I fell in love with her, honestly from a killer's perspective, because of how creepy she truly is to me. If that wasn't enough, her crows infuse even more panic into me. Everything feels so extremely chaotic that it's like anxiety inducing. I feel the Artist does an incredibly good job of filling my entire soul with panic to the point that I even begin to play worse because I'm so focused on the chaos. However, I feel reluctant placing her in the S tier, similarly to Deathslinger, because they don't quite reach that level for me like the Oni and Spirit do for me. Those are killers that genuinely make me panic every single moment I see them, and are the most terrifying for me. But Artist undoubtedly deserves a spot in the A tier as well. The next killer we'll be talking about is the Nightmare, also known as Freddy Krueger. Obviously, another absolute classic killer, but he doesn't scare me at all. It feels so horrible saying that because he's literally, I believe, one of the most recognized horror icons of all time, and here I am saying that he's not scary. At least within the DBD universe. There's nothing specific about him that makes him scary or disturbing. Sure, his face is a little creepy, but he's basically just a guy in a striped sweater, and nothing about his presence in DBD specifically feels terrifying or intense. But I do think he's a really cool killer within the DBD universe with his powers and everything. It breaks my heart to say it, but there's a lack of spook, and a lack of spook lands you in my D tier. The next killer is the Blight, and he will immediately be placed into the S tier because this man is horrifying to me beyond words. I understand DBD is a game all about being chased, and I'm practically shooting myself in the foot by playing a game that incorporates one of my worst fears into its main feature, but I absolutely refuse to let you sit there and tell me that when you watch this thing sprint straight towards you full speed from the other side of the map, you don't just enter full panic mode. And then that chase music and how deformed he is, dear god, just get me out, and there's so many Blights too, I keep running into him, make it stop. Blight might honestly encapsulate literally everything that terrifies me the absolute most. Absolute S tier, no doubt about it. Even talking about him gives me nightmares. Next, we have the Clown. I used to have an immense fear of clowns when I was younger, so I sometimes find myself feeling slightly hesitant whenever there's clowns involved within horror games. But DBD's Clown is kinda silly, honestly. The way his face droops makes me laugh for some reason. He looks kinda depressed, honestly. The fact that he has a finger collection is definitely creepy, but that unfortunately doesn't impact the overall vibe of the gameplay when facing him. He doesn't have any features that scare me in any way, though his outfit is very swaggy. He doesn't have any abilities that make him scarier in any way either. I find his chase music pretty cool as well, but again, it's lacking the fear factor. For what it's worth though, I think they did a really good job designing this character, and I'm glad he's part of this franchise. That said though, you might have scared younger me, but I'm all grown up now. We'll also be placing the Clown in the D tier. Next on our list is the Knight, and I feel as though every bit of potential creepiness this character might have is completely overshadowed by the sheer frustration I feel when playing against him. Obviously, that's a complete skill issue on my part, being a new player and not being familiar with how to deal with him just yet. But regardless of that, Knight is another killer that doesn't have anything outright special or specific that scares me in any way. I will give it to him, his knights and guards do cause quite a bit of panic, but not in the way that I'm scared. He has jump scared me with that though, where I'm too focused on the guard or the knight and suddenly he pops out of nowhere and hits me or kills me. But that's basically where it ends for me. There's unfortunately not very much I can say about this killer either. He is really cool though. The heavy metal clanking footsteps are an amazing addition, and his chase music is another great within the bunch. I'm sorry, Mr. Knight, but you shall find yourself within the D tier. I hope to never come across you on the battlefield, though. Before immediately moving forward into our next killer, I wanted to stop and truly appreciate the fantastic music so many of these killers have. Whoever is behind all of this music, you are all geniuses, I swear. And this next killer falls right into that category of fantastic music. The Twins. It's undeniable that the Twins' music has to be one of the most intense themes out there. Every part of that track sends chills down my spine. The fact that your twin brother is literally inside of you and you could just shoot him out or something, I mean, Victor is hideous. And it feels terrible saying that knowing their immensely tragic backstory, but it all just feels so gross. For me personally, the combination of Victor jumping on you followed by Charlotte finishing the job, words just can't explain it. It's so unfortunate that they're not played often at all because that chase music will never get old whatsoever. I feel that panic, I feel that fear, and the Twins do it all just right for me. They deserve a spot in the A tier. Vecna is another one of my favorite killers to play as. I absolutely adore playing as him. His concept is so incredibly cool, his abilities are nothing but fun, and he feels and looks so badass. Vecna is another one of those killers though that I cannot take seriously. Each time I see him, I'm immediately reminded of all the videos where he's flying away and his skirt just completely flies up and people put farting noises behind it. You guys are genuinely so hilarious. It's such a shame because the concept is genuinely so cool, especially with the chest and everything. I feel they really nailed that aspect. He just doesn't scare me in any way either. He also has a fantastic chase theme, which was at first the only reason I bought him. His music felt more nice to listen to rather than actually scary, but maybe that's just me being insane. Instead of running for my life feeling terrified, I'm sitting here vibing to his chase music, wanting the chase to carry on forever so I can listen to that absolute bop forever. You are a definite favorite of mine, Vecna, but you, sir, do not spook me. D tier. This next killer has, in my opinion, the absolute best music track out of any killer in the entire game. The second I listened to this entire track, I felt nothing but goosebumps just running throughout my entire body, and I was honestly afraid to even open the game because I knew I'd run into this killer so much when he came out. A track to me has never felt so unnerving like the killer I'm talking about right now. This is the perfect representation of panic, chaos, creepiness, absolutely everything. The killer I am talking about is the Ghoul. His blood-curdling screams whenever he hits a survivor with his power. I just feel it in my stomach. This guy has completely lost his mind. He's a complete maniac, and the fact that he can just zoom around the entire map so quickly, all of that combined makes him an absolute nightmare for me. He's so out of control that it is genuinely terrifying for me, like his grip on reality is entirely gone. He is another killer where I feel like everything related to horror and infusing fear and panic into the player for me is done perfectly. And he's definitely one of my favorite killers when it comes to that. There is no way that he does not belong anywhere but the S tier. This next killer is probably a complete no-brainer as to where I will place this on my list. When the Unknown's trailer released, we all knew we were in for an amazing treat, and wow, do I feel like they delivered. I mean, do I even have to say anything? Just look at him. He is completely deformed. If you thought some other killers were deformed, the Unknown is literally deformed. And his little walk too is genuinely unsettling. He also doesn't break pallets with his axe or anything. No. He almost goes into a complete backbend and breaks it with his feet. Then we also haven't even gotten into his clones yet. I usually don't even dare walk up to them and try to get rid of them because I'm always so scared he's just gonna pop out. But then he can also fake being a clone and then he catches you like that. It's just all out terrifying. And then his music, I mean, when is a killer's track not good? It literally embodies everything the Unknown is and feels like. I really couldn't imagine a different track for this killer. It makes him even scarier than he already is, which I did not think was possible. This is another killer that absolutely deserves to be placed in the S tier. Next on our list we have the Trickster, and I'm not gonna lie, this guy is just hot. I don't know what else to say. The only thing that I feel is unsettling about him when within the in-game environment is once again the chase music. They really nailed it again, and it really genuinely does feel deeply unsettling each time I hear it. Also knowing the fact that the siren-like noises are actually supposed to be the screams of his victims but distorted, please correct me if that's wrong. But that's where everything stops from a gameplay horror perspective. His little laughs he does sometimes are maybe kind of creepy too, but there wasn't much else I could truly find that actually scared me gameplay wise. So that's why I'm going to put the Trickster in the D tier. Following the Trickster we have the Demogorgon. Honestly, playing against the Demogorgon has always felt somewhat scary to me. Maybe it's simply just otherworldly creatures that scare me, but playing with the Demogorgon definitely does make me feel panicked and scared. His presence feels a bit unsettling, especially with his mouth, and again, the chase music fits perfectly in my opinion and amps up that intensity and panic exactly how it's supposed to. He doesn't have any other specific features that make him a standout killer amongst the rest though, but he definitely does have qualities that I feel the D tier killers for example do not have, as those don't make me feel anything. Demogorgon at least has me on my toes, has me panicked, etc. I'd like to think that the Demogorgon can be a solid C tier. Dead by Daylight's beauty comes from its dark, empty, and quiet environment. You're never sure whether it feels calming or unsettling. You never know what lurks within the shadows. Then from a distance you begin hearing this hauntingly beautiful lullaby. It pulls you in, but when you come closer, that once beautiful lullaby turns into a nightmare the louder and louder it becomes. That is the Huntress's biggest selling point and I genuinely love it. It's so strange how her humming sounds so soothing and beautiful from afar, but feels so eerie and scary the louder it becomes. It genuinely sometimes gives me goosebumps and it really scares me actually for a reason I cannot explain. She also has these little laughs or giggles that she does from time to time that also sound completely menacing. Her were-elk skin is even worse when it comes to the lullaby. That one really terrifies me. However, despite her lullaby being very unsettling and eerie without a doubt, there's nothing else that really scares me, but the lullaby just hits so hard for me that I'm going to place it in the B tier. Would this be a hot take at all? What do you think? Next up is the Nurse. The Nurse is obviously one of the slowest killers, which shouldn't really make her scary in any way, correct? Except for the fact that she is slowly floating towards you. Listen, I'm all up for paranormal things, but once entities start floating the way Nurse does, I'm grabbing a flamethrower or something. I cannot deal with it. But I mean, hey, at least she's slow, so we've got some sense of security. Oh wait, she teleports too. I can't count the amount of times I've been jump scared by her teleport as well. She also has one of those chase themes that make me completely forget how to play the game and how to actually counter this killer because of how much I start panicking internally. Additionally, I'm genuinely unsure why, but the cloth mask that is covering her head, so you only really see the shape of her head. I don't know, that is just such an eerie detail for me personally and it really creeps me out. With the Nurse being the OG powerhouse I believe, and downright creepy as well, she's definitely a high A tier for me. The Hillbilly is another one of those characters where, except for his face being a little bit uncomfortable to look at, appearance-wise his fear factor lacks for me personally, but where Billy truly shines is in his power and speed. Each time I find myself working on a generator or am simply just minding my own business and hear him revving that chainsaw, similarly to other killers, I start praying he doesn't come anywhere near me, which is then amplified even more when he goes into overdrive mode from a distance. The speed at which he flies towards you is something I find so scary. Not only does his power make me feel super paranoid and panicked, his chase theme also does a great job of infusing that adrenaline that I adore in horror games. Every chase I find myself in with Billy, I truly do feel panicked and sometimes literally move my body when rounding a corner as if it's going to help me not get hit by his chainsaw. Since he has his flaws but also very strong qualities, I think Billy's sweet spot for me would be in the B tier, smack dab in the middle. My first match encountering a Dredge might have genuinely been one of the scariest matches I have ever played in my entire DBD career. Not knowing he can jump out of the lockers that you're supposed to lock, which has made me literally jump out of my seat multiple times. Everything suddenly turning dark, with the only thing you can hear being the cries and screams for help, and then suddenly this clump or mass or whatever the hell this thing is slugging towards you. Dredge is one of my favorite killers both to play as and to play against, because I know I'm in for a spooky ride when playing against him. Everything about this killer scares me, and I feel behavior absolutely nailed it in that regard when creating the Dredge. There is simply nothing else that I can say. Words can't explain the fear I feel for this killer. I don't think a killer has ever made me scream that loudly before in my entire DBD career. He deserves the S tier without a doubt from me. Pure nightmare fuel. The next killer I'll be talking about is Sadako, also known as the Onryo. Listen. My excitement when Sadako released and my undying love for her is incomprehensible. She is my absolute favorite horror character to date and has been forever. However, I will not let that bias affect my rating of whether she actually scares me when playing against her. While being another incredible horror icon, she, within the DBD realm specifically, doesn't have anything that scares me. Sure, the fading in and out is an extremely nice and somewhat eerie detail, as well as her twitchy movements, but for me personally, it doesn't hit. Of course, I love Sadako as an entity within the DBD realm. However, the only thing about her that does slightly scare me, and which is the one thing I keep going back to, is the chase music. It's just all the little details in that music, it just sounding like flies, as if the flies are around a rotting body. It's such an awesome detail. Frankly though, the only things I can think of when Sadako pops up is, Sydney, the TV is leaking. I love you so much, Sadako, but I have no choice but to place you in the D tier for my personal list. I'm so sorry. Regarding the next killer, I really don't think that there is much that needs to be discussed about the Doctor. He was completely made with the full intent of scaring the absolute crap out of you. I mean, he even had actual jump scares back in the day during Madness, which is a state your survivor is in after the Doctor shocks you. He is an absolute monstrosity. His face is so freaking terrifying, the way he just constantly maniacally laughs at you. The hallucinations of him suddenly appearing has gotten me on a few occasions, as well as, again, the chase music. While obviously the Doctor is terrifying, he doesn't make me nervous as say the Oni or the Blight or the Unknown. Those killers genuinely make me nervous and anxious to play against, and that is the one thing that holds me back from placing the Doctor in the S tier, so he'll be going into the A tier. The Wraith, unfortunately, like many other killers, doesn't have any appearance-based features that stand out in a truly scary way. I feel that he's one of the killers that lacks the most in that regard, which obviously he's literally one of the first ever killers made in DBD. One thing I do feel though is that whenever he's in his Wraith form, I genuinely do feel stressed. I always find myself looking around me, and even then do I still sometimes completely miss him when working on a generator, for example, or I'm simply running around, so there is that paranoia factor coming into play as well, which has led to many jump scare moments. I've had many moments where I accidentally run straight into a Wraith without even realizing it, and it scares the crap out of me. The subtle sounds he makes too, if you listen closely, are also kind of uncomfortable in some way, so the Wraith is definitely nowhere near close to the bunch of killers that don't really scare me in any way. He's absolutely a solid C tier for me personally. The Legion... I genuinely just cannot find anything to really note regarding, the character being scary within the realm of the game. No matter how hard I try, I cannot find a single redeeming factor, and this might be the first killer where I simply cannot find something positive to say regarding fear, which saddens me honestly because I'd like to say at least one redeeming factor about each killer, even if they don't scare me. Without a doubt though, his chase music... If only he wasn't like a hit-and-run killer, I'd be able to listen to that track for so long. But unfortunately, there is genuinely just nothing that scares me about the Legion, so he will fall into the D tier. maybe even at the bottom of that tier. Moving on to something more positive, I'd like to discuss the Cannibal, otherwise known as Leatherface. Say what you want, I think Bubba looks horrifying, especially that face, knowing the backstory behind that. Ooh, just having this guy chase you relentlessly with that chainsaw hanging above his head combined with the sounds he makes when he finishes revving it, it's also disturbing and creepy, and I feel so panicky whenever he's chasing me. That said though, he definitely isn't the scariest out there, and his lore honestly somewhat removes the fear I have for him, and instead I feel incredibly bad for him. There isn't super much I can say about Bubba, but I think he's another kind of middle of the road tier killer fear-wise, so I'll be firmly placing him into the C tier. For this next killer, I'm going to be completely honest. I am so on the fence regarding him, I genuinely do not know where the best place for him would be. I'm talking about the shape better known as Michael Myers. Whenever Michael is not in tier 3, he could arguably be S tier. I swear, he's one of the scariest killers for me personally to face. The paranoia, the jump scares, the anxiety, the stress, there's absolutely everything you need, but as soon as he hits tier 3, all of that fades away because of his terror radius finally appearing. Which I don't think is a bad thing. Obviously, it would be broken if he would be tier 3 and not have his terror radius, but from a fear standpoint, everything that felt so incredibly anxious and creepy has disappeared. That's why I've been having such a tough time placing him. There are thousands of clips where he's just jump scaring people relentlessly, like he is the perfect killer for that. But then you have the aforementioned working against him. I feel like a tug of war, like this leaves only one option open, and that is to place him in the B tier. I promise you, without tier 3 he would be S tier, but the tier 3 drops things down a notch sadly. Chucky's a killer that honestly, I can't help but smile when I see Chucky. He's just the most adorable little thing, the way he's so small and short and just waddling around. He's so small, I bet he can barely hold up that knife. Anytime I see Chucky, I just want to grab him and throw him up and down like a baby. I mean, let's be real. Chucky is the least intimidating killer out of everyone. There honestly isn't very much to be said about Chucky, despite me being a humongous Chucky enjoyer myself, and him being one of my favorite killers. He doesn't outright scare me in any way whatsoever, so despite my unwavering love for him, I don't think I have any other choice but to place him in the B tier. I think he's amazing though, an amazing killer, and so fun to both play against and play as. The Hag is definitely one of those killers where the first few matches against her are terrifying. The jump scare potential from her traps is no joke. I can't count the amount of times I've been jump scared triggering one by accident. That initial paranoia of any corner could have a trap makes her a nightmare at first. But the thing is, once you've played against her a few times, the fear factor fades. You'll learn to expect the traps, you check everywhere, and the spookiness just doesn't land the same way anymore. Sure, her sounds are kind of gross and her chase music is chaotic, but that only adds so much. That's why she falls into D tier for me personally. Sorry Hag, you had a good run on me in the beginning, but you don't quite hold up the same anymore. Moving on to the next killer in our list is Dracula. Dracula is one of those killers where the concept alone is fantastic, it's layered, creative, and honestly something I could gush about for ages. The design and idea behind him are so much fun, and I love what Behavior did when bringing him into DBD. But the question is, does he actually scare me? Sadly, the answer is no. As much as I truly enjoy the creativity, I don't feel nervous at all, I don't feel anxious or threatened, and his overall vibe doesn't shift the atmosphere of a match for me. The fear factor just isn't there. So while I really do admire everything about his design, Dracula will also find himself in the D tier for me. We finally reached the last killer in my list, as I have not played against the newest killer yet, and it is someone I have been dying to see in Dead by Daylight since the moment I played this game, and I really could not be happier finally seeing him here. Springtrap. Springtrap is extremely special for me in the way that he can traverse through doors and jump scare you. That alone makes me feel extremely cautious even touching any of the doors. His temporary lack of terror radius after exiting a door keeps you on edge. The fact that you don't actually see him walk out of the door either, and you have to try to rely simply on watching the door open. When he snatches that hatchet from your back, it's all so amazing. Those are all things that sometimes still get me to this day. This all combined with those heavy, clanky footsteps behind you and that chase music, every encounter feels super intense. Shout out to his glitch trap skin too. Those sounds on that skin are very, very unnerving. Facing Springtrap keeps me genuinely nervous the entire match, exactly how I want to feel in a game all about being chased. Finally, Green Bunny Man, you're checking all the right boxes and you've earned a rightful spot on the A tier. And that was the end of my list. I'd love to know your thoughts on everything I mentioned. Remember that this video is meant to be nothing but fun and lighthearted, and again, I'm so thankful for you taking the time out of your day to watch my first DVD video. I've been very nervous making this, hoping it'd go well, so your support means the absolute world to me. Thank you so much again, and I hope to see you again very soon!